Welcome to Wizards of the Tower.
Roleplay.
In this episode, journaling while you're adventuring.
Or adventuring journals.
You bet. Welcome to Wizards of the Tower.
Roleplay.
So in this episode, we're going to talk about adventure journals, essentially chronicling your campaign and your adventures as you play. So how important do you think this is?
I think it's extremely important for at least one player, if not all players, to do it.
Okay. Now, as we've gamed together for quite a few years, how long has it been since I've been journaling?
Almost the whole time.
Yeah.
Almost the whole time.
Yeah.
There was a time and I would journal, but I would do very short notes. A lot of my notes, though, that I keep up here, and then afterwards I will actually write a journal for the adventure as if it was my character doing it. But I remember what was going on.
Well, I remember our very first game that we were playing. We had the one sheet, and I used to scribble little notes and stuff in the little note section of the one sheet.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about that is you run out of room pretty quick.
Yeah.
And what I learned right away is it's very important to keep track of people, places, and things in your journal.
Right.
Okay? People, NPCs, people you encountered, names, the guard captain, the wizard, the maiden,
the tavern,
the
king, the queen, the noble,
their names, so that later on in the campaign, when someone's like, wait, didn't that guy tell us to go over here? What was his name? Oh, I don't know. What was his name? I don't know. What was his name? And that's when I'm starting to dig through my journal and I'm going along. Yeah, okay, wait. You guys, hang on a second. I'll get it. So it's back here. His name was Clavius. And Clavius told us when we got to the split rock to go to the right. There you go.
Yep. Now, you don't have to use an expensive journal. You don't even have to use journals that are designed for, Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or whatever. You can buy those things. And they're kind of cool. They're kind of nifty. But you spend a lot of money for those things, and then you use them up, and then you may not finish the campaign.
Well, that's true. I'm a journal snob. Most of my stuff has kind of period authentic looking leather covers.
Right. You go to Barnes and Noble.
Nice cloth, linings and really thick, good paper.
Go to the Renaissance Fair. You go to the con, and there's journals there.
Yeah, I'm kind of a journal snob. I like things to be somewhat authentic. However, you could have a 3-ring binder. You could have
one of my journals.
Yeah, something like that. You could have a 3-ring binder. You can have a folder, whatever. I would highly recommend to players that they keep some kind of a journal. If you tap it out on a computer or a notepad, that's fine. But the people's, places, and things, that's what's really important, okay? What really saves your party, as you go down the road, okay, is your magic items list. Okay,
and your golden treasure.
And your golden treasure, you keep track of that. But your magic items list is really important, and that's because when you're fighting something, say it's got a resistance to fire, you kind of remember, well, a couple sessions ago, didn't we get that wand of cold?
Yep. Okay,
you know what I mean? And that's come up many, many times as we've played. We're really getting kicked around by these guys, and we don't have much healing. We're getting low. I go back and I look at my loot list for 3 or 4 sessions, and I remember we had that wand of Cure Mod that had 12 charges on it. Well, that can make all the difference in the world. Okay.
Yep.
The thing is to keep track of your not only your stats but other people's stats. Keep track of your enemies. Keep track of how much damage you take. Keep track of how much damage your enemies take. Keep track of where you're going. Now, we've talked a little bit about maps,
Right.
okay? But also, in your journal, scribble out little simple maps, little diagrams. And, keep track of where you're going, where you've been, the things that you encountered, traps you've encountered, creatures you've encountered.
Right. So Tom actually had a journal that he used in a game that we play called Aces and Eights, where his character actually drew pictures.
Yeah, it was an Old West game, and I play a Native American named Walks with Thunder. The reason I'm playing Native American is because I have Native American heritage. I'm an Osage, and I'm very proud of that. And I wanted to play at least once in my life a role-playing game where I got to play a Native American. So I made this journal by hand, and I used it out of old scraps of leather that I found. So I have like this old, kind of worn-looking saddle kind of leather, and then some suede, say some tan suede or buckskin that I sewed it. And I made it the way I thought Walks with Thunder would make something. And so he basically keep it big enough to put in a pouch, but not too small that he couldn't draw on it. And he can tie it shut with these ties. He kind of opens it up like that, and he walks and looks in there, and he writes about it. It says, "The Travel Journal of Walks with Thunder." And of course, he drew like a little Old West buffalo head right there. You kind of making it look good. But then he goes on, he has other pictures. And so he says, May 4th, 1867. And that's the year that we're playing in Aces and Eights. And of course, this is, mountains I
They're
have
in the
seen.
Southwest.
Yeah, Southwest. So there's mountains I have seen, or the landscape that he walked through. Now, and he talks about finding an old rifle with a few bullets, and he's basically walking, trying to avoid a lot of the white faces, he calls them, because they hate him, because he's a Native American, and they hate him, they're racist. And he says, here's a bear. He says,
I saw this bear.
I saw this bear nearby. There are many bear nearby, but I saw this particular one right by my camp. So then he keeps going, and he talks all about the different things that he's seen. And he says, here, I found a skeleton, a dead man out in the desert.
With a top hat.
And it has a top hat. Also had a coat, and I think he had a few other things with a nice pair of boots. But this is what he found. And of course, if the story, as it goes, is that Walks with Thunder gets to inherit from this man's widow the top hat, the coat, the boots. And so he gets a really nice, decent pair of clothing. And some pieces of clothing that he can wear. And he doesn't have a horse, but he has a burro to haul his gear around with a trav-walk called Walk Steady. And so it's important enough for him that he would draw a picture of Walk Steady. And there's different times. There's May 13th or May 12th, Sunday. Talks Like a Horse is a bit under the weather. Or he's basically things that he talks about. Dan Dingle is now called Sand. Sounds like bear. So he's kind of making notes about people he's made. Now, after the big shootout, he took his notebook and he drew the picture of the 5 outlaws that got killed that day. And so he drew them all in their coffins as they lay on Main Street. So basically, I was melding what happened in the game to essentially an authentic journal that my character was keeping.
Right.
And so, you don't have to get that complex, obviously, but you can have a lot of fun with it, too.
Right. Now, there are different kinds of journals that you might want to use. There are regular lined journals, which is like this one that Tom's got. Then there's the unlined, which Tom has.
Basically just sketchbook.
I have here, which is
kind of a sketchbook.
This is one I got at a Renaissance fair.
Yeah.
It's blank.
Pretty well made. It's well sewn. Good paper in it.
And you can get these neat compositions, which are at Office Depot, which are great because then they have
the grid marks.
The grids.
See, now Delaney's had these grid mark journals for a while, and she keeps them because each grid in there, you can grid out a dungeon system, which we'll talk about later in another episode. but she used to grid out maps and of castles and buildings, and because they can be gridded, you can measure out the feet on each grid and say like each grid is 3 feet or 5 feet, whatever, and then you can measure out the exact sizes of buildings.
Yeah, so when your dungeon master or game master throws down the dungeon, or he says, "Oh, you walk into a room that's about 30 by 30, and
yeah, there you go.
There's door and then opposite from where you entered. You can draw that and whatever else. So then you kind of get an idea of where you're at."
So I've been in a lot of campaigns since we started gaming, and I've got journals for every one, and I got a stack of journals this high. I'm not going to get them all out because it's very sore. It's sort of a sore memory to me because we've hardly ever finished a campaign. I think we've only ever finished one campaign.
Yeah.
And all the others, I've got stacks of books, very dutifully kept records of everything that we've done, all the characters, all the people, and we get up to about level 9, and all of a sudden our group falls apart because of politics or personal problems, or no one can show up, or something happens, and then that's it. I got another journal to toss on the pile, and I go get another one where we're going to start, and I'd write 40 or 50 pages in that, and then somebody doesn't like somebody in our group, or somebody's wife moved somewhere else and they had to go, and then I throw it on the pile again. So, I mean, it's kind of a sore spot that I have all these journals. But on the other hand, I'm glad I kept them because now if we ever want to pick up any of those campaigns, I've got everything written down.
Yep.
We can catch back up where we were.
And it's kind of fun to once in a while look back through them. And
it is actually. Some of them are pretty good, and they got some good stories. So we haven't really deep sixed aces and eights yet. We're still going with the characters, still going with the story. We can still pick up where we were.
Yep.
That's the great thing about having this record of Walks with Thunder, is we can still pick up where we were.
And we plan on it.
And we plan on doing it because it's a really fun game.
Right. We actually plan on doing an episode about aces and eights here.
We will.
We actually had it recorded and the sound didn't come through.
Technical problems.
Yeah. So that'll be a future episode. But anyway, journals, they're extremely important. Now, even as a DM, journals can be important for a DM.
Yeah.
Now, I have a calendar system on my computer that I use that I will put just little notes. They ran into the Giants this day, or bad snowstorm.
Yeah.
Or real brief things like that. So it helps me remember too, and then I've got the exact date in my calendar system what happened. It's very important as a DM to keep a journal, because if you come up with a name and then a couple weeks later the party goes back to that guy and you're trying to remember his name and you don't remember it, and hopefully if your players have journaled it,
hopefully somebody remembers
it. What was his name again?
Journals,
you want to be consistent.
Journals can be pretty important for DMs. Okay, a lot of times, especially in Pathfinder, because Pathfinder is so free form, anything can happen.
Well, even Dungeons and Dragons can be free form.
Okay,
or any role-playing game can be really free form.
Okay.
Whether it be Call of Cthulhu.
But here's the thing. Here's the difference. Is we don't play canned campaigns.
No.
Everything we have that we do in Pathfinder right now is basically off the top of Delaney's head. So keeping everything straight can be difficult because you have such an expansive campaign. Okay? Dozens of NPCs, places, names, situations, climate, environment, all that has to be taken into account. Someone's got to keep a record of that. And so we do. We keep records of it. I'm not the only one in our group who journals.
No.
We have maybe a couple other people who journals. I know for sure one of our other players keeps a very elaborate journal, which is great. We need that help.
And then he actually posts it into our
we have a forum site
for our group.
And so that's good. And you can also take your journals and post them, for extra points.
Yeah, in my games, if you journal, whether you're journaling it here or you're posting it in the forum, I will reward my player who does that.
That's good.
And any player can do it, but only 2 players do it, so they actually earn more experience points per game session, and they will distance themselves away from the rest of the party. Some people don't like that, but I believe in rewarding my players, which we'll talk in another episode.
Well, it adds up. It may not seem like much the first couple times, but if you keep going, it adds up, and you end up leveling before everybody else. And they can get kind of resentful, but as Delaney always says, look, there's nothing stopping you guys from writing a journal.
Nope. or doing something else that's bonus.
Exactly.
That is towards the game, but
Exactly.
yeah, journals. I'm a firm believer in them.
Well,
I think they're a great thing.
I agree with you. Well, folks, so that's our episode. Journals in our adventure and journals of character adventures.
So we're going to end this episode of Wizards of the Tower.
Role play.
And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, spread the word. Comment. We do our absolute best to reply to every comment that anybody posts on there, whether it's like, hey, thanks for a post, or thanks for whatever, or even detail.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, may all your adventures be epic.
And keep on rolling. Thanks folks.